Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel and Maverick News. I think some of you may have noticed the spelling error that appears on some of the descriptions and titles on some of the platforms that we broadcast to every night. I do apologize for that. The correction was made, but after the correction was made, I guess it didn't filter through to all of the platforms, so there's an M missing. And I think there's another spelling mistake too that did not make it through the system to update before airtime. So anyway, it is the Maverick News channel with an M. And thank you for your patience and tolerance on that. Thank you also for your patience over the past couple of days. I was a little under the weather for a few days there and took a couple of days to recuperate, but I'm back in the saddle tonight and we have a lot of news to share with you. Wildfire situation out in Nova Scotia. We will bring you up to date on that. Lindsey Graham has an arrest warrant out for him issued by the Russian government. We'll tell you why. What else do we have? Jagmeet Singh is calling for foreign interference special rapporteur David Johnston, the former Governor General, to step aside. That's an interesting development. And we'll talk also a little bit about the debt ceiling situation. I'm not going to linger on it too long, and I'll tell you why I'm not going to linger on it too long when we start to linger on it. All that and a whole lot more coming up right here on the Maverick with an M News channel. Don't go away. I will be right back, and we'll get things rolling.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, here I am. I'm back. Let's get things started with the situation out in Nova Scotia, shall we? First up, here's Emergency Preparedness Minister, Federal, Bill Blair. He brings us up to date.
My colleagues from Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, members of Parliament, Lena Dobb, Mike Holloway, Darren Fisher, Andy Fillmore, Jaime Batiste, Jenica Atwin, Wayne Long, and Cody Blois. There are currently active wildfires in British Columbia, Alberta, and the Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, as well as New Brunswick. And we are very concerned about the fires that we have seen develop over the past few days in Nova Scotia, particularly on the weekend. And over the next week, our data shows that fire risk will remain very high or even extreme for the Northern Prairies, for northeastern British Columbia, the southern parts of the Northwest Territories, well into the weekend. On Saturday, we approved an extension request from the province of Alberta. There are now currently over 200 Canadian Armed Forces members currently deployed in the province supporting response efforts and logistics. Additional federal supports from the original request for federal assistance will continue to be provided as previously arranged under the respective mandates of the various federal departments engaged, including the RCMP, Transport Canada, PHAC, ESDC, and Indigenous Services Canada. And to date, the matching campaign for the province of Alberta and the Canadian Red Cross has raised a total of $21.3 million with federal and provincial matching. As I mentioned earlier, we are following the wildfires impacting other provinces and territories closely, and we stand ready with federal support if and when requested. Earlier today, I spoke to Minister John Lohr in Nova Scotia and to Mike Savage, the Mayor of Halifax, last night in order to offer our support directly, and our officials at the Government Operations Center are fully engaged. I also had a conversation earlier this morning with Rick Perkins, down in Shelburne County about some of the fires impacting in the communities he represents. We know that several thousand Nova Scotians have been displaced, and I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge that Nova Scotians, as we might expect, have opened up their hearts and their doors to allow their fellow citizens in this extremely difficult time. As well, we also know disproportionately First Nations are often impacted, and for example, the Subaganadai First Nation in Nova Scotia issued an evacuation order for 20 of their residents yesterday evening. They have now been all relocated and everyone is safe, and no further support is being requested by the community at this time. I've spoken to my colleague, Mr. Haidu's office, and they have been in touch with the Assembly First Nation Regional Chief Prosper this morning, and Indigenous Service Canada is coordinating closely with officials on the ground to mobilize all resources needed through the Emergency Management Assistance Program. While our greatest relief is that so far there have been no casualties reported in this fire season, we are reminded that last week firefighter Frankie Bayo's serious injury in Alberta reminds us of the incredibly dangerous work that our first responders are undertaking. Our thanks, as always, go out to the firefighters, first responders, search and rescue personnel, and the incredible community volunteers who are working to manage these fires and to support Canadians who have been forced to evacuate their homes and their communities. I'll now turn to my parliamentary secretary, Stéphane Lazon, to provide remarks in French.
Thanks, Minister. Bonjour.
Okay, so that'll just be a repetition. So no need to continue with that, but we will go out to Nova Scotia and find out what they have to say about providing relief to residents out there as they continue to battle the fires in the Maritimes.
Move on to Mayor Savage and Scott Tingley. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Good afternoon, everyone.
Mr.
Mayor, ministers, team, thanks for joining us here today. We have a serious situation in this province, a couple serious situations for sure, and we're definitely a province that is on edge right now. Whether you are in a community that's under an evacuation order or close to one, close enough to see the smoke, you can see the smoke for great distances. Whether in one of those situations or not, you probably know a Nova Scotian who is impacted by this, or you could just be a human being that is seeing the images and feeling those emotions. It's a serious situation. The fires around the province are leaving a mark on our province. And as the fires, two significant fires we'll talk about today, but as the fires continue to make their path across the province, one thing that we know is our main concern is fighting those fires. And here in Nova Scotia, we have some of the best firefighting teams. We have some of the best resources possible deployed to fight these fires. And they're doing the hard work to fight these fires. So right now, I'm here in Dartmouth at our provincial EMO center. And I will tell those people that are not in this area, from this area, you can see the smoke and understand the size of these fires that are happening. Like many of you that are listening today, I've seen the images, I've seen the videos, and I've seen the reality of what's happening, the damage that's being caused, and it's very scary. It's very scary for sure. But I want you to know that we are doing everything possible as a province, as a municipality, as a country to fight these fires and to keep people safe. Every resource at our collective disposal is being deployed to fight these fires. So please know that everyone you will hear from today and everyone who is actively engaged in fighting these fires is completely dedicated to working as quickly as possible, as humanly possible, to get those that have been displaced from their homes back to their homes and to get these fires extinguished. So certainly the heaviest impacts we're seeing right now are in the Shelburne County area. It's a massive fire in Shelburne County, and of course in the Tantallon area as well. I'm personally hearing from people that I know who have lost their homes, and I know many Nova Scotians will be also hearing from people that they personally know who have lost property in these fires. So we're in constant contact with the fire crews and the natural resources teams, and they're working hard out there. They're giving it their all to knock back these fires. And the safety of these workers is a top priority. And I want to thank everyone who is working so hard and doing the best that they can to get things back to normal as quickly as possible. Although with the weather we're having, the weather is not cooperating right now. We're going to need some help from the weather, and it will take time for sure. But to help speed up the efforts of fighting these fires, we have help here in the form of water bombers. Right now, water bombers on site from Newfoundland. We've had some help from New Brunswick as well. I want to thank Premiers Fury and Higgs for their support, and I know there's more help coming from PEI as well. So thank you to Premier King and other premiers in other areas of the country, and the federal government are stepping up as well. We will take and use whatever resources we can possibly made available. We need them here. There are currently comfort centers open in affected areas. There are comfort centers in HRM, and there's at least one comfort center in Shelburne County. For the exact locations and the operating hours for those comfort centers, please check novascotia.ca/alerts, novascotia.ca/alerts for the most up-to-date information. Now I want to speak directly to those who have been impacted by this fire. We can only imagine the fear that you're feeling, the uncertainty you're feeling about when you will be able to return to your home, what you may be returning to, and we know that the fear must be just completely unimaginable. So, but know that you know, the Blue Noser spirit is alive and well in this province, and your friends and neighbors will be there to support you in every way that they can. So I know that there's in also confusion about where you'll stay. You don't have access to your kitchen and your provisions and your food. I know all that is just adding another layer of concern and fear. So I want to tell you that today, as a province, as a first step to try to ease some of the financial stress in some small way that you're feeling, the province is announcing that there will be immediate support available for those households in evacuated areas of up to $500. We're going to work with the Red Cross to make that funding available to you as soon as possible. I'm truly sorry as your premier for what you're going through. Your province is truly sorry for what you're going through, and we will be there to support you in any way we possibly can as a province. We also know that those who are operating comfort centers are under pressure and stress to do what they can to support the people who are using those comfort centers. So we'll look for ways to support those running the comfort centers as well. And finally, for our first responders, our volunteer firefighters who are coming from across the province to help. We know that the pressure you're feeling as well in so many ways, but yet you're stepping up yet again to help our communities. So the province will put forward some programs that will try to provide some financial support to our volunteer firefighters who are traveling across the province to help another area. We'll look for ways to support those volunteer firefighters with mileage, and also the departments themselves who are pushing gear out around the province. That's not without a cost as well. So as a province, we'll be there for those volunteer fire departments and volunteer firefighters who are stepping up to help those communities. We'll continue to look for more ways to support Nova Scotians as the days unfold before us. But look, we know the pressure that's being felt across the province. We appreciate the work of everyone out there who's doing everything they can to protect property, but most of all to protect human life. So thank you for everything you're doing. Also, Minister Rushing, be prepared to speak further to it, but there's a provincial-wide burn ban now in place. The burn ban is province-wide, no burning in Nova Scotia. So far this fire season has been an incredibly busy fire season. We've had 183 fires during this early part of the fire season, up to 12 yesterday. Most of those fires, if not all of those fires, would have been started in some way, shape, or form by human activity. So no burning in the province. We have to do what we can to protect the scarce resources that we have and allow them to fight the fires that are happening right now. So we will get through this. We will get through this together. Do what you can to support your friends and neighbors. Do what you can to support those in need. That's what Nova Scotians do each and every time they're asked to step up. They do step up. And I have great faith in the Nova Scotian spirit, the Blue Noser spirit to get us through here, this situation as well. So stay safe, everyone. And thank you for your efforts to fight these fires. I'll turn it over now to Mayor Savage.
Thank you, Premier, ministers, and DNR, the Director of Emergency Management for the Halifax region, Erica Fleck, ladies and gentlemen. We are in an unprecedented fire response that has displaced more than 16,000 residents of our community. Now, we have not expanded the perimeter since yesterday, which is some hope that perhaps this situation has stabilized, but it is a dangerous situation. So far, we have been fortunate in that there have not been reports of injuries or loss of life, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people who've been impacted significantly. A number of homes have been lost. While we're not prepared to put a number on it, many residents will be dealing with significant losses and will need our care and support in the days ahead. This is a very challenging situation for everybody within the evacuation zone and for others who are in the vicinity and wondering if their neighborhood and their homes would be next. Do not re-enter the evacuation zone. Please allow emergency responders to do their job and to focus on fighting the fire. We are saying to people to pay attention to official channels, and some people need to be prepared to leave on very short notice. Think about your plan for pets, for medications, insurance, and identification documents that you might need. And you might need to have at least 72 hours minimum supplies. The fire situation continues to be serious and it is hard to predict. It is a wind-driven fire. Our fire service, along with the Department of Natural Resources, is working exceptionally hard against challenging conditions, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude. Together, they have protected schools, seniors' facilities, and scores of homes. Right now, as an example of what resource we have in Halifax Regional and Fire, we have 15 tankers, 8 engines, 2 DND brush units, 6 utilities out fighting this fire. It's a rapidly changing situation, and we are getting accurate information out as quickly as possible. We have evacuation centers set up 24 hours at the Canada Games Centre, and we have daytime comfort centers at Beaver Bank, Kinsack Community Centre, and Black Point. We've staffed up to 311 to respond to questions from residents, and we ask if you've been evacuated to register with 311 so we know where you are. I want to just acknowledge this is a terrible circumstance, but the positive aspect of this is how well emergency management is organized in this province and here from this facility in Dartmouth. Erica Fleck and others, our fire chief, police are all in this building. Provincial officials are in this building. Everybody is pulling together to fight this fire. I want to thank the Premier and I want to thank Minister Laura last night when we were contemplating declaring a state of local emergency. I called Minister Laura, caught him in the car, and his response immediately was, Mr. Mayor, whatever you need, we will be there with you. The Premier called, was the same message. I spoke last night to Bill Blair. I spoke today to Prime Minister Trudeau, and we've been assured of the support in whatever is needed in the days ahead. I want to thank you. I want to extend my thoughts to those who are impacted, to those who've been evacuated, to those who aren't sure what the next days will bring. I want to thank the first responders who are on the line in very dangerous circumstances. I want to thank also volunteer firefighters from around the province who've come to help. And just to say to you that this is the spirit of Nova Scotia. This is the spirit that brought us through COVID and many other tough circumstances in recent years. And it's the spirit that will carry us forward. Thanks to everybody who is volunteering, everybody who's putting time into this. And if you're wondering what you can do, you can think about those folks and think about what you might be able to do to help people who are living in such an uncertain time as a result of these fires. Thank you very much. And I will, yeah, please, Deanna.
Thanks very much, Mayor and Premier. So I'm here to give an update from the Department of Natural Resources Renewables on the wildfire situation in the province. And we'll speak, of course, to the couple of priority fires we got going on. So we've had 183 total fires to date in the province. Currently, we have 8 active fires around the province, and 2 of which are out of control, which are 2 priority fires. The fire in Tantallon is still estimated about 788 hectares. The one kind of good news story that we're hearing so far from officials at the site, as the mayor indicated, there's been minimal growth on that fire in terms of wildland fire activity. So that is a glimmer of hope. We've got lots of Department of Natural Resources staff, volunteer and municipal fire resources, lots of emergency responders, as well as we have one of those Newfoundland CL-415 water bombers are working that fire. And so they're working on priority spots that may be popping up through the day. In Barrington, a little different story, a very challenging day again. The last estimate on that fire was that it was at 6,270 hectares, but we do expect significant growth on that fire today. And even as of 2:30, reports from our officials was they were recommending additional evacuations, but I'd defer anyone to the local municipal emergency officials and the RCP for specific information on those evacuations, but it's an ongoing and evolving situation down there. So we have all of our department helicopters are out working on these fires. And in addition, we've procured as many local private operators of helicopters that we can. So they're out working on these fires as well. And we also have one of the Newfoundland CL-415 water bombers working in Barrington. We have incident management teams in place on both fires to help organize and lead the ground firefighters. We can assure you it's all hands on deck at Department of Natural Resources, as I'm sure it is with all emergency services. In addition to the staff we've got committed to active fires, we also have staff, supporting those fires, back at the offices and also ready for new starts. So as the Premier had indicated, our resources are stretched and limited, so we are prioritizing where we send resources. And would like to give an update, as a lot of people are probably aware, we did send a 20-person Department of Natural Resources crew out to the Northwest Territories last week. So we have recalled that crew. So the plans are in place, trying to get them back within the next couple of days. And they'll be home to help us out. We've had reports that they're in good spirits, but they're certainly wishing they could be here and helping out. So they'll be here soon. Like to also let everyone know we as Premier had indicated, we've reached far and wide, through our national and international partners to see what else is available for resources. We do have additional crews coming in from both PEI and Newfoundland within hopefully the next 24 to 48 hours. And as well as there's plans in the works to get an additional CL-415 from Newfoundland.
Thank you, Premier and Mayor. Oh, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, pardon me. I wanted to acknowledge my council colleagues who have been involved in this since last night. We were on the call last night when we were determining to call a local state of emergency, and they're all doing whatever they can to help. And I particularly want to acknowledge Pam Lovelace, who is the councillor for the area. She will not be going to her home tonight. She will be seeking refuge like many others, and she's been working hard on behalf of her citizens. So I thank my council colleagues for their dedication and understanding. Premier.
We'll now take questions from media in the room. To start with, please identify who your question is for so we can make sure they get to the podium. And we do have a number of media registered on Zoom as well. So we'll start in the room and then we'll move to Zoom. Go ahead.
Can you give us a number of how many homes have been burned and why not?
Yeah, so the priority is on fighting the fire for sure. So that's where the resources are totally allocated to kind of containing the fires. We have two significant fires that are out of control in this province. We have, as Scott mentioned, other fires in the province that are under control or being contained, but the two that are out of control are a big concern, and that's where the resources are being deployed. So in the process of, you know, some of the air cover that's happening from the helicopters and from the water bombers, during that process, some of the pilots would observe some things, but oftentimes they can't because the visibility is not the greatest because of the smoke. So we do know for sure that a number of structures are damaged and some are completely lost. And you know, it is a concern, and it will be a priority to kind of inform people as we can get that information. But right now, with the intensity of these fires, the resources are completely focused on tamping them back, but also the safety of our firefighters is the number one priority. So there's been significant structural damage in the areas of these two fires, the one in Tantallon and also the fire in Shelburne County, which is just a massive fire. But good teams are working on it. Professional firefighting teams are working on it. And I think that the thing to the professionalism of the responders of these fires, when you think about 183 fires during this fire season alone, I think that's a number that would shock many Nova Scotians. In a normal fire season, we would normally have 140 to 150,000, I think. Also a number that would shock many Nova Scotians because oftentimes the response is so quick and swift that it can contain these fires rather quickly. We have two that are uncontained right now. We're very concerned about the structural damage, but the priority right now is getting these fires under control and keeping people safe.
Premier, with respect, this sounds a lot like having more people lack information forthcoming. Surely you can give us ballpark. Is it 50 houses? Is it 100 houses? What? Give us some information.
It's dozens of structures.
I guess this question's for Mayor Savage or the municipal side of things. How can we ensure communications are clear? The mapping inconsistencies were noted very clearly. The list of evacuated areas versus the original maps that were coming out were showing two different stories. Obviously, communications is critical. Can you just kind of talk us through that and what's being done to ensure clear communication?
Yeah, I want to commend our comms folks who have been here since, well, probably 24 hours now or close to that. I was here last night when decisions were being made as to what would be evacuated. These are big decisions, and Erica was very involved in making those decisions. It's a very fast-moving situation. I did a video a couple of hours ago showing people where the map is of the area that has been evacuated, but also the area of the local state of emergency, which perimeters that to tell people that they have to move as quickly as possible. So I think that the information we're getting out, considering the circumstances and how dynamic it is, I think our folks are doing an awful lot of work to make sure that people have the information that they need.
On the provincial side of things, I guess I just wonder, how can people find out what's happening with their homes? Obviously, those who are forced to leave, that's got to be top of mind. What can folks do to get that communication? What's the message there?
Yeah, I think the evacuation orders, I think it would be fair to say that those evacuation orders, I expect they'll be in place for days, just so people would know that this is going to take. It's going to take some period of time to get these fires under control so people can safely return back to their homes. We know this is incredibly stressful for people to not knowing what they may be returning to and certainly not knowing when they can return. So we fully appreciate and how stressful that is. The most up-to-date information for people, for those that have access to the internet, would be at novascotia.ca. /alerts page. That there'll be information continue. That website will continue to evolve. we'll try to get the most up-to-date information to people there. But this is a time when we need to pull together as Nova Scotians, as communities, to also make sure that we're sharing information. It's not. There's a number of communities impacted, and there'll be people all around the province that have a close connection to somebody who's directly in one of those impacted communities, and we just do what you can to support those people and offer the help that you can and still maintain your own safety. So we'll get through this. It's going to take time and it will require some patience, but we will get through this. The amount of resources that are being deployed at this towards these two fires, the professionalism of those people who are out there right now in incredibly stressful circumstances, doing what they can to fight the fires, to protect people and protect property. They're putting everything they have into this. So we'll do our best to get the information out there to people. We just ask for some cooperation in that process as we distribute information in a very, very fast. This situation is evolving very fast. Just in the past 24 hours, the growth of these two fires is pretty breathtaking. So it's happening fast, and the team, the resources, the people that are focused on fighting these fires are doing everything they can to get them under control.
Mayor, do you have any thoughts on the development process of the areas in this sort of wildland and urban interface, and could that have been a contributing factor? People are complaining about some of the subdivisions only having one or two exits, and they were having problems exiting, fleeing their homes. Can you speak to that?
Well, in every evacuation, there is concern and panic, and that's just a fact, and it's understandable. And you don't very often see a calm exiting of communities. We need to make sure as we build our communities that they are built with environmental standards in mind and also the safety in mind. So, there's a lot of development in the areas that have been affected. There could have been a lot more. And we need to make sure that there is egress from communities, more than one. And we need to make sure that that there is an ability for things like emergency vehicles to get through as well. And so that's always going to be a challenge in development. It always has been, and it always will be.
Okay, we do have a number of questions on the phone, so we'll go there now. We'll start with Brian Flynn with All Nova Scotia. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, I'm not sure who this question would be to, but I see that a number of schools were dismissed today early. Some of them a great distance away from the fire. I'm just wondering if anyone can speak to why schools in places like Fairview and Rockingham were dismissed.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. We can probably the Minister of Education would be a good person to speak to on that. But I will say that in general, we're recognizing that the impact on families is very broad ranging, and certainly we would have just because of the nature of our province and certainly the nature of the city. You would have a number of people who are maybe living in an evacuation area, but teaching or working in an educational facility in close proximity, but maybe not in the evacuated area. So I think what we're trying to do is just have show some compassion in keeping people safe in how things function in the evacuated areas for sure, but in the broader community, just as we get through this situation that we're facing right now. So Minister of Education would be able to speak to certain schools, but I would definitely say that as Premier, it's been my direction that we use some common sense in what we're asking of people in those close communities. It may not be directly in the evacuation zone, may not be in the path of a fire, but certainly have connections to it through social connections and work connections.
Thank you, Premier. Brian, do you have a follow-up question?
I do, and Premier, I guess this one is more for you. I gather from what we've learned over the last few hours that Nova Scotia doesn't have a water bomber of its own. I'm just wondering if that's correct, and if it is correct, why it is. Did that make any difference? Would it have made a difference if we had one on hand?
No, we have helicopter capacity, and the helicopters are, well, I guess you can imagine with 183 fires so far this fire season. There's been a lot of success in tamping back fires that are starting around the province. 183 around the province. We have 2 that are out of control, 2 are significant ones right now. But even as we speak, a number that are under control or being contained. So I think the air capacity that we have through the helicopters, we will continue to look at that. But also the bomber capacity, I believe Newfoundland has 4 or 5, New Brunswick has some, and we work very closely with our neighboring provinces. But we're happy to look at what investments might be required in terms of these fires are being fueled by winds. That's what's happening. They're very fast moving, very dry conditions, very, very windy conditions. And, even when you think about deploying the water bombers, very windy conditions, their effectiveness and the level of, additional risk and danger that you take in deploying them, these are constant factors. So, were they a factor in the speed of these fires? The kind of the investigation will show that, but I would just say to Nova Scotians, there are significant resources for fighting fires in this province, and they do a pretty darn good job. But sometimes the circumstances of Mother Nature definitely impede the ability.
Okay, next we'll go to Keith Doucette with the Canadian Press. Go, Keith.
Keith is not up, but Mike Tutton can put some questions if you like.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Tingley or whom, but wind speed and its direction as well as rainfall. The Premier just alluded to this, but are they out of the norm significantly from historic norms? What is occurring?
I didn't quite, you kind of broke up a little bit there, but I believe the question is about wind speeds and possibly whether we're seeing abnormal wind right now. I don't know, maybe Scott, you want to speak to that? It's fine.
Yeah, I think as I understood the question, are the weather conditions and the a factor in what we're facing, and I would say that's our main challenge. It's been an extraordinary dry spring. What I understand, way below average for rainfall. So the forests are dry, and yesterday was extremely windy. Down in Barrington, we've been fighting hot, dry, windy conditions since Friday, and so that is the main contributing factor to why these fires are growing the way they are. So, yeah.
Michael, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Just to be clear for Mr. Tingley, if he wants to say anything more, my question was whether it's out of historical norm significantly. That was the question. But I have a follow-up as well. Does he want to add something, or that tends to remain the same?
I guess I'd reiterate in terms of like whether it's abnormal. Yeah, I'd say it's an abnormally dry spring. I don't think the wind itself was abnormal. We get windy days. I don't think it was anything that extraordinary that way. It's just the combination of the dry condition plus the wind. The low humidity also is a huge factor. So all that came into play, basically since Friday, and that's where we've kind of landed here today with these large fires. So,
thank you, Scott.
Well,
next we'll go to CDP Blair Road. Go ahead, Blair.
No follow-up.
Michael wants his follow-up.
Michael, sorry, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. There's two numbers being floated around. The fire department's talking about 14,000 people being evacuated, and the mayor is talking about 16,000. So perhaps the mayor or somebody could explain what is the correct number of evacuees.
I might ask Erica Fleck if she wants to answer that, the Director of Emergency Management, first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. The number that we're using right now is 16,429 plus change. And that's based on the StatsCan data that comes out of our GIS system. So that is the most accurate and up to date that we have.
Thank you, Erica. Okay.
Just if I may, just on that, just Michael, that would be the Tantalon fire, the HRM evacuations. The situation in Shelburne. This is a significant fire. It's a fast moving fire. Evacuation areas have been extended throughout Shelburne County. I believe Barrington as well, and even beyond now. So the number of evacuations across the province would be significantly higher than 16,000 when you add in the Shelburne fire situation. So, and again, we just say to people, you know, we know how stressful it is to be asked to leave your home and not know when you're going to be able to return and not know what you might be returning to whenever it is you return. It's incredibly stressful. But you must respect the evacuation order. It's for you. It's for your safety, and please stay away from evacuated areas to allow the crews to fight these fires in a safe manner.
Thank you. Now we'll go to CBC's Blair Rhodes. Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, we've heard from some evacuees that they weren't given sufficient notice, that they felt very rushed and panicky. I was wondering if you could speak to that.
I will, and then maybe I'll ask Mayor Savage to add. But you know, I can't even really imagine. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon in Nova Scotia, and you're probably out in the yard, maybe with your family or with your pets, or you're working and you're just having a beautiful day. And then somebody comes along and says there's a fire, you're going to have to leave, and you're going to have to leave quickly. I can't even imagine what amount of time could properly prepare somebody emotionally for that. These evacuation orders are certainly not taken lightly. The team that makes those decisions considers a lot of factors, and every one of those factors is driven by one goal, and that's the safety of Nova Scotians. So we know the evacuation orders are stressful. We know they're tough. They're extremely tough for the people that are making them. They're very tough for the people who are on the ground communicating it, knocking on doors and enforcing the evacuation orders. There's nothing easy about an evacuation order. And I don't know that there would ever be an evacuation order that would be smooth. It's just the nature of what's happening there. So, you know, we know there's going to be a lot of work to do to support these families. And that's our focus, is on supporting families, keeping people safe and fighting these fires.
Blair, do you have a follow-up question?
Just to speak to that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mayor.
It's a good question, but I want to go back to being in the EOC last night with Erica and with all the reports that were coming in with our fire department officials, our EMO officials, with police, with our CMP, with folks from the province. This was a very dynamic situation. There just simply wasn't a lot of time. And I can tell you that there will be people, many people, I hope, who will go back to their houses and say, why did I need to evacuate? I hope that's what happens. And I think in a lot of cases it might, but when you're sitting in the EOC and you hear reports coming in of a fire that jumped a lake, that's a big, fast moving piece of work. And so we're going to be careful. In fact, Erica last night at one point said, you know, no one's going to go to bed knowing that there are people who could be evacuated but haven't been, who might be in danger. So we have to err on the side of caution. You have to move quickly. And that's the nature of emergency management.
Blair, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, you announced a total ban on fires. Has there been any consideration given to a total ban on travel in woodlands?
Thank you, Blair, for that question. It's something that we've been discussing, but as we move forward and talk with the activity that's going on in the western area, that is certainly the route where the extreme fire weather is taking place. Most of the activity that people were talking about was forestry activity. Most of those activities have already taken over into the nighttime shifts, if you will. So there's no daytime shifts in the western area. But that is an ongoing conversation that the department is having as of about an hour ago before we left the Shubenacadie Fire Command Center. So we are having those conversations. We did put in place the fire ban throughout the whole province of Nova Scotia for the time being. That will expand into June 25th. We'll either look at it on a weekly basis or reevaluate and extend it if need be in June 25th. But we believe we've taken all the measures necessary right now. And there's really no indication that of what these causes of fires have been. I guess I would ask, allow the time for the activity to fight the fire right now. And we are actively investigating the fires that have been extinguished.
Next, we'll go to Heidi Petracek with CTV. Go ahead, Heidi.
Sorry, had to unmute. I do want to talk about burn bans and just some thought that perhaps a burn ban for the province perhaps should have been enacted sooner in the weekend, considering the hot, dry conditions.
Yeah, go ahead, Minister Rushton.
Yes, thank you for that question. There's been conversation a few weeks ago. We had the fire in Digby, and then we had some rain in the area. So these conversations are ongoing on a regular basis about the burn ban. But having said that, the burn map is on the website every day at 2 o'clock. And if you look, the western area has actually been in a burn ban situation for quite some time. The exact date I can't remember when it turned red, but the extreme burn ban has been there for quite some time. There is a difference between campsites, provincial campsites that are in a controlled fire campfire atmosphere. That's what we actually closed as well, on top of the regular updates of the mapping every day at 2 o'clock. But as of right now, there's no burning anywhere in the province of Nova Scotia. We need our resources to combat the circumstances that we have right now in the province with 8 active fires going on. We need those resources there. We can't afford to be pulling resources away from there from another fire that may be caused by campfire. So we do evaluate those on a daily basis.
Heidi, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. This one would be likely for Ms. Fleck, but I am wondering about communications and mapping. You know, the evacuation area map evolved a couple times. It had an error the first time. There's no street names on it. It's not like, I'm just trying to imagine someone who just moved here or something. They're not familiar with all these neighborhood areas. Is there any way to improve mapping so that it can be more specific, accurate in a short amount of time?
Thank you very much for the question. So as the mayor and both the premier spoke to, it's an evolving situation that moved very, very quickly yesterday and late into last night. So we do have very detailed mapping with street names by street numbers on houses. But to get that information, because it's such a large area, onto a PDF that we can put online, pardon me, is a bit challenging. But we're certainly working through with our corporate communications folks, hourly to try to get, better information out there for residents.
Next, we'll go to Suzanne Lapointe with Global. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Hi, my question is for Scott Tingley from Natural Resources and Renewables. Is there any indication as to what caused these fires?
Specific causes so the fires are under investigation. It's probably safe to say they've all been human caused. We haven't had any reports of lightning in the area. So it's human activity that's causing them, but we don't have any detailed information. They're all under investigation.
I also want to know, as my follow-up, it's also for you, Mr. Tingley. The forecast over the next couple days, do you have any indication of that and what impacts you expect that will have?
The forecast is not favorable. So we have dry weather forecast for the week, no significant rain, and still some wind. So like I said earlier, favorable reports coming back from the fire and Tantalent that there hasn't been significant wildland fire growth. Obviously, the impacts to the community are enormous, but it is encouraging that we don't have growth on that one, and we hope crews can maintain through the week. We expect we're going to continue to realize challenges in Shelburne, down in Barrington, and that'll be an ongoing assessment based on what happens with the various fires, where we're going to prioritize resources. And as we start getting additional incoming resources, that's all going to be that's the equation. Where are they going to be most effective and most needed? So, but yes, a tough week ahead yet.
Okay, next we'll go to Evan Taylor with Radio ABL. Go ahead, Evan.
I think this will be for the premier. We've received a fair amount of reports of people in our area having issues with either their internet service provider or with cell phone coverage. I'm wondering if that's an issue that's been discussed in the emergency management office, and if you guys are aware of network issues and people struggling to get the important information that you guys are getting out there.
Yeah, thanks for that important question. And we know that certain areas, power has been shut off to certain areas for safety, for those fighting the fires and those evacuating. So we know that that's the case. The telecommunications companies are here in the command center here today. You know, most of what the initial reports from them were that most of their infrastructure was intact, which is a good thing, but no doubt there'll be some outages, and that's a concern. But we'll have to work through that as a province.
Evan, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, my follow-up was just he sort of answered it. That are the ISPs and those people present, and they are there. So just guess clarification for who do you have there and who talking about networks? Do you have guys from Bell, Eastlink, and is everyone there?
Yeah. The Bell representatives are here. The TELUS and Eastlink, is my understanding, are all represented here.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to Pat Healy with the Laker. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, this question is for Premier Houston and Mayor Savage. As the fire started, it seemed the communication response to the wildfires was non-existent. Outside of a citizen on Twitter posting updates on the fires, there really was no source of information for residents. Why did this happen, and what can be improved going forward?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Obviously, you know, communicating information to residents is critical. There's been a couple questions about that today, and certainly we're hearing from people. But what I would say is these fires started and moved very, very quickly. So you know, the folks on the ground are trying to spot the fire, hear about the fire, assess the fire, respond to the fire, and inform people. There's a lot happening. We'll always look for ways that we can kind of improve the communication, but you know, the municipality was kind of, I thought, pretty quick to get stuff out there. We always want to make sure we get it further. Same with the province. We stood up a website last night. We'll continue to look for ways to get information out to citizens. It's critical that people know what's happening and what to expect in the coming days. But there's a lot of uncertainty around these fires in general, just because of the speed that they're moving. So what we would say is we would do the best we can to get information out there. We do, you know, rely on Nova Scotians to help get it out there through social media, and I think there's quite a bit of that happening as well. But we need to make sure it's accurate information, and in the very beginning, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge, but people are doing the very best they can.
Pat, do you have a follow-up? Oh, sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. So 24 hours ago, very few Nova Scotians knew that we had a fire in Halifax. They may have known about the one in Shelburne. And the focus last evening was on firefighting, on getting firefighting people where they need to be, and also evacuating people using RCMP and other means to get people out of their homes. The second thing is, information is one thing. Accurate information is a really important part of this as well. And, you know, you can't just start throwing out what you hear. It has to be accurate information from good sources. And I think that our fighters, working with the other agencies and with our communications people, have done a pretty good job on getting that out and getting information out that people can use through a variety of means. But, you know, we will always look at this after the fact, as we did with Fiona, as we did with Dorian, as we do with snowstorms, and see what things might be able to be done better.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. Speaking about telecommunications, I have heard from a few people who were inside the evacuation zone that did not get the emergency alerts because they are with Kudo or Public Mobile. How can that be improved so that they get the alerts?
Yeah, thanks for Pat, and obviously the management of the emergency alert system is always something that is top of mind in this province and others for sure. So we know that when these alerts go out, you know, there'll be some people who live in Nova Scotia, but maybe have a phone with an area code from another province. So we worry about them getting the alert, but you're identifying maybe those that are on a specific carrier. We'll talk to the folks about how we can improve that, because the emergency alert system and the accuracy and the completeness of the alerts going out is absolutely critical. We want to do everything we can to get that right. So we'll take that one away, Pat. Thank you for that.
Okay, next we'll go to Steve McKinley with the Toronto Star. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi there. Not sure who to direct this question to exactly, but there are a lot of people today wondering what's happened to their houses, when they can get back and see it, see what's happened. I know that it's early in the ball game, and we can't have a fixed timeline. But in your experience, are we talking about days? Are we talking about a week or two? Are we talking about months? Can you give us some kind of a ballpark idea?
As the Premier has indicated, and as we all feel, the stress on people who have been evacuated from their homes and their neighborhoods and don't know what is becoming of their house is a terrifying circumstance. So today, the first job of Halifax Fire and Emergency has been to fight the fire, but they have started to go back into neighborhoods to start to survey the damage where they have the opportunity to. And it's a tough message, but we have to be sure that people don't go back into the evacuated areas. A fire that can seem to be out in weather like this can flare up very quickly. And so people have to allow the folks who have experience to do this. And there will be some tough conversations, and those will have to happen as quickly as they possibly can. And we all recognize the stress that people are going through, and we'll do whatever we can to alleviate that.
Steve, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, it's kind of a, well, first of all, just wanted to find out, do we have any ballpark numbers for evacuations from Shelburne County and communities, people or communities?
400.
Okay, yeah, Minister Wetmore.
Yeah, yes, I understand that the evacuations are 400 plus from Shelburne County and continuing to grow as the areas of evacuation are even late this early this afternoon continuing to increase as well.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all the time we have. Thank you to our participants, and thank you for those who have joined us here both in the room and online.
Okay, let's take a look at some images from out in Nova Scotia where those wildfires continue to burn tonight. Hang on while I bring them up onto the screen for you. Scary, scary looking stuff. Devastation.
Or maybe it's okay. We're gonna get up.
A lot of smoke.
Or maybe it's okay. We're gonna get up.
And this is an aerial shot. Giving you a sense of how much smoke you're dealing with down there. Hard for me to gauge just how much area that actually covers, but that's many, many miles. Many miles. And here's a water bomber picking up. I'm not sure if I can bring this one up or not. I don't think it's going to let me. I do apologize for that. Yeah, those are the main images for you, but here's satellite imagery showing you, again, smoke in the area drifting across the landmass and right out into sea. And you can see the hot spots. So, ongoing concern, stress. And homeowners worried. One more short video here of people driving through the forest. Hang on just a moment. Here we go.
Can't see anything. Look, that's fire.
Hammond's Plains, Nova
Whoa.
Scotia.
Whoa, I need to go.
This was yesterday.
Can't see anything.
Difficult to even see to drive because of all the smoke.
Whoa, haul ass, bro. Just haul ass.
Whoa.
Hadi.
Almost
Go,
hit
go,
that
go, go,
vehicle
go.
in front of him.
Go.
Almost rear-ended him. Couldn't even
Go.
see him. Just like driving in whiteout conditions and in a snowstorm. But that's smoke and ash.
I'll be okay, don't worry. Put this down. You want me to drive? I can drive. Oh,
Don't let that guy drive. He just told you to give her. You almost ran into that guy in front of you.
okay.
Oh, my. Very dangerous. Look at the ashes and the sparks. The embers flying through the air. Wow. I don't think you can fully appreciate how dangerous this is until you're right in the thick of it. And as you can see, it looked like it was night, but you can see the daylight over here now that they're into a clearer area. And there was so much smoke, it was like driving through a snowstorm at night. But it was actually daylight. It's just that the sun wasn't getting through. Wow. Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible situation. Stay with me. We'll be right back. More to come.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so it's also election day in the province of Alberta in Canada. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about politics out in Alberta because I think that what is happening out there in many respects is a reflection of what is happening nationally in Canada and even in the United States. You're seeing a rise in conservatism, populism, and yet it's polarized. There's also an equal rise, I think, almost an equal rise on the neoliberal woke political side. And so right now, tonight, you have a face-off between Rachel Notley and the New Democratic Party on the neoliberal left woke side, and Danielle Smith on the United Conservative Party of Alberta, a conservative, sort of populist side with that party. And then you also have in the mix some other smaller parties that are vying for a foothold on the political landscape out there, with parties like the Solidarity Party of Pastor Artur Pawlowski, who was the leader of the Independence Party, but was turfed from that party as the leader after the release of a conversation between himself and the premier, where they were discussing his upcoming court cases because of his defiance of pandemic lockdowns. You know, that blew up into controversy. So anyway, the Independence Party actually ended up with less candidates than the Solidarity Party, because in a matter of days, Pawlowski put together the Solidarity Party, took enough candidates with him to field a roster of about 44, I think, across the province, which is just about enough to get almost half of the ridings covered. Not enough to form government, but enough to be a thorn in the side of whoever happens to form government, I suppose, if they were to get anybody elected. Will that happen? Who knows? It looks like, based on the polls, tonight will be something of a nail biter, because the UCP and the NDP in the polls are neck and neck. So it's going to be a close one out there. The polls are still open. We'll keep an eye on things as the program progresses tonight. I'm not sure that we'll have any results for you, because I'm not sure that we're going to stay on the broadcast long enough this evening to provide full-blown coverage of the election. But if anything develops, we'll keep you apprised here tonight. Moving on to other news, Jagmeet Singh, federal leader of the NDP, is calling for foreign interference special rapporteur David Johnston to step aside. He has made it clear, Jagmeet Singh has made it clear, that he would like a public inquiry into foreign interference into Canadian elections and the electoral process. And while Mr. Johnston, who is the former Governor General, has acknowledged that investigations have confirmed there is and has been foreign interference in just that kind of thing, he has stopped short of approving or calling for a full-blown inquiry, even though in the House of Commons it was they voted on it, and it was something that the opposition parties called for. But Johnston says no. He says there can be some sort of, is recommending maybe some sort of hearings, but not a full-blown inquiry. It continues to be controversial. We have Jagmeet Singh here today taking the lead on this very issue. Let's hear what he has to say.
That you might have. So we've tabled a motion, an opposition motion, which will be presented tomorrow, debated tomorrow in the House. And in that motion, we're asking for two concrete things. First of all, Given the clear apprehension of bias at this point, we are going to be asking for Mr. Johnson to step aside as special rapporteur. I've been very clear in not attacking Mr. Johnson personally, and I maintain that. But given the clear appearance of bias, given the mounting appearance of bias, and particularly given the track record or the donating record of the chief counsel that he engaged to do his work, Ms. Sheila Block, it is very clear that the appearance of bias is so high that it erodes the work that the special rapporteur can do. And that's why in our motion, we'll be calling for the House to vote on Mr. Johnson stepping aside as a special rapporteur in order to go about this process in a way that does reinstill confidence in our electoral system and in the process. We'll also be again calling for a public inquiry. It has been our position. We forced a vote on it in the House before, and we'll be forcing a vote again on it. We believe a public inquiry, the rigor and the scrutiny of a public inquiry is the only path to reinstill confidence in our electoral system, to ensure that we are doing everything possible to let Canadians know that this is something we take seriously and that steps will be taken to reinforce our democracy from any foreign interference. Donc, on va avoir un débat sur notre journée d'opposition.
So I do agree that the appearance of bias is enough here to warrant him stepping aside. In a process such as this, it is imperative that a special rapporteur not only be impartial, but also he has to be seen to be impartial. It's imperative. It's without that appearance of impartiality, the entire process is compromised. The confidence of the public is, it can't be maintained. And Justin Trudeau never should have appointed him as the special rapporteur for that very reason alone. Even if he is impartial, it's the appearance of bias that leaves him compromised. And so, while I don't often agree with Jagmeet Singh on many issues, I certainly do agree with him on this one. And I think every other Canadian hoping for
her personal experiences,
full inquiry does as well.
She received a briefing around interference. She'll be talking about that right now. Thank you so much, Jenny Kwan.
Well, thank you very much, Jagmeet. As many of you know, CSIS had reached out to me a couple of weeks ago to offer a briefing with respect to foreign interference as is applied to me. Since that briefing, I've had an opportunity to actually meet in a classified briefing with CSIS last Friday. While I'm not able to disclose the details of how that foreign interference applied to me specifically for national security reasons, CSIS has confirmed with me that I am being targeted for foreign interference and will continue to be a target. To that end, let me also offer these comments. The reason why I'm being targeted is because of my activism in support and to fight for basic human rights for not just Canadians, but for those who are abroad as well. It is my strong belief that those rights apply to the basic human being of who we are and our basic humanity. In the situation with Hong Kong, as you know, I was born in Hong Kong. And to see the situation unravel as it has and continues to breaks my heart. And I am outspoken about it to fight for the people of Hong Kong and to stand with the people of Hong Kong. As the immigration critic for the NDP, I'm also outspoken on the issues in support of the Uyghur people. The national security law that has brought in by the Chinese government strips all of those rights and basic law for the people of Hong Kong. It is a violation of not just for the people of Hong Kong, but I believe for the international community as well. That was a promise that was made by the Chinese government to the international community. So I will stand firm with the people who are fighting for basic human rights, stand firm with the people of Hong Kong. coming out of this briefing, it is more clear to me than ever that I will not be intimidated, that I will not be silenced in any way. Whoever is trying to put pressure on me in whatever way that they're trying to do it, they will not succeed. I will continue to do what is right and what is just. And to that end, in fact, just last week, I attended 2 rallies. One was to have a photo exhibition to remember all that is happening in Hong Kong right now for the people who've been subjected to violence and to document the attempt to erase this history. The other event that I attended this weekend was a democracy walk to say no interference, no, and to say no to intimidation. And so I am here today, and I will continue this fight to bring this message to the House of Commons, and to also call on the government to do what is right and what is just. And that is that we need a national public inquiry. It is not just for the protection of people like me, who's a member of parliament, but it is also for everyday people who face those dangers every day. And they need to be protected. They need the government to be on their side. And I'm very aware of people who have family members who are in Hong Kong or in China who is subject to potential threats. And that fear is real. I will not forget them. And that's why I stay firm and recommit myself to this fight. And no amount of interference by foreign actors will deter me from doing that.
How long was the briefing, and do you think you should have been alerted previously to, recent weeks?
The briefing was probably about a little over an hour. And I was alerted, just a couple of weeks ago. I think in the ideal universe, really, the minute that our intelligence authorities know about this, I think people should be made aware. It's not acceptable to me, for example, in the case of my colleague MP Michael Chong, who found out 2 years later that he was being targeted. I think that for all of us who's doing our job and should be alerted, and I think that everyday Canadians who are being targeted need to also be alerted as well. They also need the government's protection.
It was obviously the Chinese government, correct?
That is correct. In this instance, with the briefing, it was with the Chinese government. But I should also say and note that I've also been sanctioned by the Russian government as well.
Can you tell us do you know how long they've targeted you?
What we do know is that this is gone on for sure over the election period, but also prior to the election as well. And so the 2019 election, and so this has gone on, and we know that this is going on right now. So the reality is this: what CSIS confirmed with me is that I was a target, and I continue to be a target. They use the term evergreen, meaning that I will forever be targeted.
Can you talk a little bit about what you saw yourself prior to this briefing? Did you notice signs of intimidation to yourself or family members? Did you see any evidence of this before the briefing?
Yeah, one thing for me that I thank my lucky stars, I suppose in a strange way, is that I don't have family members in Hong Kong or in China. Thank goodness, right? Because if it was a different scenario, what would that mean is an entire different story. Whether or not I had known, the short answer is no, I didn't know until this moment when I've been informed. Did I suspect that there might be something? And especially in light of the information that's coming forward, I did wonder. I can't help but to wonder because of my outspokenness on the issues. And so now it's been confirmed.
Does it bother you? Does it bother you that it's taken leaks? Does it bother you that it's actually taken leaks for you to find out that this has happened? I mean, shouldn't you have been informed as soon as it happened?
I think that all members of parliament who's been a target should be informed right from the beginning. I think that the Canadian government should have taken action right from the beginning. It was dismaying for me to learn that the information that's coming out is coming out in drips and drabs by way of leaks. It's dismaying to me in reading the report from the special rapporteur that a national inquiry would not be called. That was absolutely dismaying to me, and that should be done.
Can you tell us, was it more like a voter disinformation campaign, the way Kenny Chu says he was subject to, and did it continue in 2021 if it's something that's evergreen?
I cannot comment specifically about how I'm being targeted. That is part of the classified information that's been provided to me by CSIS. So to that end, I obviously would not want to jeopardize the important work that they're embarking on in terms of intelligence work. Not only do I not want to jeopardize their work, I also don't want to jeopardize the people doing that work. So I'm not able to comment exactly how I'm being targeted, but suffice to say that I am, and I'm an evergreen candidate in that.
Were you targeted by Jiao Wei? Were you targeted by were you targeted by Jiao Wei? Can you tell us that, whether or not at least that threat has been removed?
I cannot offer with you any specific information on how I'm being targeted. CSIS made that very clear to me. Otherwise, I would be A, violating the CSIS Act, which I would not want to do, and B, I would not jeopardize. I would not want to jeopardize their work, so I cannot comment on that.
And that's that. So we'll see where that goes. My guess is it won't go anywhere. It's interesting to listen to all of that. You just don't know what the truth is anymore. And you just don't know where information is coming from anymore. And you just don't know what to make of it all. I can't even make sense sometimes of political alliances like the one that we're seeing between the Liberals and the NDP right now. I mean, you have Jagmeet Singh calling out the Liberals and Justin Trudeau saying we need an inquiry into foreign interference. And yet the NDP is the party propping up the government. They're keeping the Liberals in power. And you have a NDP member of parliament saying that she is being targeted by the Chinese Communist Party, according to CSIS, with some sort of attack. Whether it must be some sort of disinformation campaign, and maybe you're sitting there scratching your head saying, well, what does that mean? Well, I suppose they could be doing that. They could attack someone or put pressure on a member of parliament in a wide range of ways. It could be during an election, injecting information into a campaign in a specific riding that is not true or inflammatory, or maybe even putting money into a competing candidate's campaign, another party's campaign. But it seems from what we're hearing, that foreign governments are engaging in information warfare to put pressure on politicians that they don't like, or maybe to help politicians that they do like. But she's not sharing specific information in her case, so who the heck knows? But the alliances sort of don't make sense in a way because, Justin Trudeau is being accused of being basically in bed and in love with the Chinese Communist Party. After all, he has said that he admires their basic dictatorship. Jagmeet Singh is propping up the Trudeau Liberals, and yet over here he's saying that they need a full-blown inquiry. So why does he continue to support the Prime Minister? And on the Conservative side, who knows? And yet when you listen to Trudeau speak, he speaks out of both sides of his mouth on an issue like this. So you don't really know where he really sits. If you listen to him, you have to judge these guys by their actions. and follow the money. And that's what we've been doing. When we look at the funds that have been flowing to the Trudeau Foundation, the people within the Trudeau Foundation, the politicians, after a while it becomes a little bit clearer. But in this age of information warfare, everything is very murky. And I think that sometimes, even if you have a politician saying something like, I oppose the Chinese Communist Party, I am against the Chinese Communist Party. And when they engage in that kind of rhetoric, they might actually take the opposite position when it comes time to vote on specific issues. In other words, they'll just straight up lie, because that's what people remember, because that's what gets the media play. And then when these issues come up, when they have to vote on bills or legislation or take a stand on an issue in the House of Commons, when it comes time to stand up and vote, they flip and then they flop back after they've done the dirty deed. It's all cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors, murky, murky. In 2023, it's definitely a new era of information warfare. What else do we have for you tonight? Memorial Day. Yes, it's important. We should acknowledge that, of course, to pay tribute to veterans, to those who paid the ultimate price for freedom on the U.S. side. Here's President Biden.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please. 155 years ago, retired Union General James Garfield spoke here at Arlington, marking our nation's first Memorial Day. Standing amid rows and rows of marble stones, many of his own fallen soldiers among them, he asked, what brought these men here? What high motive led them to welcome death? Then he answered his own question. He said, our nation's life. My fellow Americans, Jill, Vice President Harris, Second Gentleman Inhofe, Secretary Austin, Secretary McDonough, Secretary Mayorkas, General Milley, and most importantly, veterans, servicemen and women, and their survivors. Today, we once again gather in this sacred place at this solemn hour to honor fallen heroes. To once again stand amid the rows and rows of marble stones that bear witness to the brave women and men who served and sacrificed for our freedom and for our future. Those who died so our nation might live. Every year, as a nation, we undertake this rite of remembrance. For we must never forget the price that was paid to protect our democracy. We must never forget the lives these flags, flowers, and marble markers represent. A mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a sister, a spouse, a friend, an American. Every year we remember, and every year it never gets easier. To all those here and across the nation who are grieving the loss of a loved one who wore the uniform, our Gold Star families, for all those with loved ones still missing and unaccounted for, I know how painful it can be, how it can rip open that black hole in the center of your chest you feel like you're just sinking into. Bringing you back to that exact moment you heard that knock on the door or the telephone ring. The exact moment you had to tell your children that mom or dad would not be coming home. The hurt is still real. It's still raw. Tomorrow marks 8 years since we lost our son, Bo. Our losses are not the same. He didn't perish in the battlefield. It was cancer that stole him from us a year after being deployed as a major in the United States Army National Guard in Iraq. As it is for so many of you, the pain of his loss is with us every day, but particularly sharp on Memorial Day. Still clear. Tomorrow is his anniversary. But so is the pride Jill and I feel in this service, as if I can still hear him saying, Dad, it's my duty, Dad. It's my duty. Duty. That was the code my son lived by, and all those you lost live by. It's the creed that millions of service members have followed from the fields of Yorktown to the shores of Normandy, to the rice paddies of Pusan, to the valleys of Kandahar, to the mountains of Sinjar and beyond. Many of whom never returned home. Throughout history, these women and men laid down their lives, not for a place or a person or a president, but for an idea, unlike any other idea in all of human history. The idea of the United States of America. This sanctuary honors that sacrifice and tells their stories. And in turn, it tells our story, the American story, the story of the patriot who died to deliver a nation where everyone is entitled to certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. The story of hundreds of thousands of soldiers who shed their blood to make these words real. The story of the brave Americans who fought the forces of fascism and died for preservation of democracy. As we're reminded by the hundreds of graves here in Section 60 of Arlington and across our nation, the story of the women and men who sacrificed everything to keep democracy safe and secure during the last 2 decades. Each of them, a link in the chain of honor that stretches back to our founding fathers in those days. Unbreaking, unbending, not just in their duty and devotion, but something even deeper, in their faith in us. Their faith in us, that we will be worthy of their sacrifice. Our service members have always embodied the highest expectations of our democracy. They've always held faith in our country and all that we could be, a citadel of liberty, a beacon of freedom. For our democracy is our strength, the wellspring of possibilities, and the source of endless renewal. It's how we've been able to constantly change and adapt through the centuries. It's why we've always emerged from every challenge we face stronger than we entered it. It's how we come together as one nation, united. And why there's nothing we can't do in America when we do it together. It's a truth we celebrate this year as we mark 75 years of a desegregated military, 75 years of women's full integration, 50 years of an all-volunteer force. Throughout the annals of history, our troops have fought for our democracy, and if necessary, died for it. Today, their service and sacrifice, and that of their families, echoes far beyond those silent stones out there. We see the strength of our NATO alliance, built from the bonds that we forever forged in the fires of 2 world wars. We see it in the troops still standing sentinel on the Korean Peninsula, preserving peace side by side with our allies. We see in every base, every barrack, every vessel around the globe where our military proudly serves and stands as a force for good in the world. And just as they've kept the ultimate faith to our country, to our democracy, we must keep the ultimate faith to them. As a nation, and people have heard me say this for a long time, as a nation, we have many obligations. But I believe in every fiber on my being, we have only one truly sacred obligation: to prepare those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't.
I can't take it anymore. Sorry. The words just ring hollow. Prepare them and care when you send them, and care for them when they come back. How about we don't send them at all? How about we keep the peace? I remember back in 2016, the election, heading into that, it was so clear to me from watching, I'll call it straight up propaganda, that warmongers in the West wanted to go to war so bad. They wanted escalation and U.S. and NATO involvement in Syria. They were trying to suck the West in. They wanted direct involvement. You could see it. You could taste it. They could taste it. I could smell it. You could see it on the news with the images. Remember the white helmets? The propaganda? Very clear. So here we are on Memorial Day, and he's talking about the sacrifices made. Think of all the wars that didn't make sense. Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Where? Where are they? Vietnam? Did that make any sense? We definitely should honor the veterans and those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but we should not excuse the politicians, the bureaucrats, those involved in the war machine, who have led us into battle after battle after battle. Battles that have cost so many lives, destroyed so many futures, families. Ultimately, maybe even our countries and our democracy. Oh, you might think that everything is solid and stable because of the power that NATO possesses and the US. Peace through strength, they say. I'm not so sure anymore. seems to me what might make a whole lot more sense as we reflect on this Memorial Day is strength through peace.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, the drama continues. Congress has days to okay the debt limit deal before default. So what happens next? This is how the mainstream media is covering the debt limit story and the deal that Biden has now. Oh, it's so dramatic, isn't it? Just daily drama. Here's ABC News. Congress has days to okay the debt limit before default. A critical deal, it says here, to raise the nation's debt ceiling was announced over the weekend, and lawmakers in Washington now face 1 week to pass the bill in both the chambers of Commerce before the predicted deadline when default would begin, unless the $31.4 trillion borrowing limit is increased. Oh my goodness. The U.S. will run out of cash to pay all of its bills in full and on time, the so-called X date, as early as June 5th, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. 31.4 trillion dollars. Despite the breakthrough on an agreement between President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, legislative hurdles remain to get the 99-page debt and spending bill to Biden's desk by next Monday. They'll get it there. Don't worry about it. The narrow margins in the House and Senate mean both Democratic and Republican moderates will likely have to back the bill, blah, 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 blah. What do you think? Do you think they're not going? Come on. They're not going to raise the debt ceiling? They're going to raise the debt ceiling. Guaranteed. They always do. They always will, as long as they survive, as long as they can keep the game going, as long as they can continue to kick the can down the road. Or, the Freedom Caucus, they're calling for more spending cuts. Oh, for crying out loud. $31.4 trillion. They continue to spend more than they take in. It's a game. They pay for the debt by simply going in the back room and turning on the printing press. It's the easiest way for them to get out of actually paying the debt. And they just spend at will. And it causes inflation. That means the money you have ends up being worth less. That means that you and I, the public, the taxpayers, we all end up paying for their irresponsible spending sprees. And we just spoke about these endless wars. Well, the debt feeds all of that. It feeds the war machine, baby. 31.4 trillion. Imagine if they took all the money that they spent on bombs and guns and jets and they built, I don't know, housing. Not that I'm a big fan of government-run housing, but why not? If you're going to spend your face into oblivion, why not? Let's give everybody a free house. Oh, but we can't do that. We can't afford it. Can't you? Can't afford it. You're too busy blowing crap up. Blowing people up around the world. Why don't you try? I'm editorializing. Why in case you hadn't noticed. Why don't you try building something for a change? Don't worry, folks. This is all drama. It's political theater. It's all designed to make you think that they're trying to be responsible when it's anything but. I mean, they are they're not responsible with money. They just spend it like it's water. Even more than water. It's like freer than water. They just spend it. And you think they're going to turn the tap off to Ukraine? Oh, no. No. No, that faucet is open wide. Although I have noticed, I think there's a bit of erosion in public support for the Ukraine war. See if I can find what I'm talking about here. I wasn't really planning on mentioning this tonight, but something very interesting caught my eye today. It was a story about Ukraine, and it was the language that was used, and it's not in the headlines here anymore. They've taken it down. There were 3 stories. But you know how they will discredit one side or the other in a mainstream media report by saying something like, so-and-so offered this theory on why something is such and such without any proof. That's what was written in these articles about Ukraine. And it was specifically directed at Ukraine, not at Russia. And I thought that was very telling, because it was the way the narrative or just the style of the writing had been flipped to try to hold Ukraine accountable for what the mainstream media was calling out as, unsupported claims. And I'm sorry, I can't find them now because it was earlier in the day and they've dropped off the headlines. And I was scanning through so much information, but I did catch notice of it. I absolutely did. And that's usually a sign that public opinion is starting to shift, and maybe even mainstream media views on this as well. And speaking of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia's Interior Ministry has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. He made comments that were related to fighting in Ukraine, and there's a video out now, and it might possibly be edited. It appears to me as though it was edited. Regardless, this is Graham meeting with Zelensky, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. And he says in this video, the Russians are dying, and described the U.S. military assistance to Ukraine as, and these are his words, the best money we've ever spent. Now you know where your tax dollars go. Well, Graham appears to have made these remarks in different parts of the conversation. This video, which was posted by Ukraine's presidential office, put the 2 clips next to each other, and this caused an outrage in Russia, of course. So a spokesperson for Vladimir Putin, Dmitry Peskov, says that it's hard to imagine a greater shame for the country than having such senators as Lindsey Graham. So now tonight, Graham has an arrest warrant out for him issued by the Russian government. So Graham's been on Twitter and he says that to know my commitment to Ukraine has drawn the ire of Putin's regime brings me immense joy. I will continue to stand with and for Ukraine's freedom until every Russian soldier is expelled from Ukrainian territory. I will wear the arrest warrant issued by Putin's corrupt and immoral government as a badge of honor. And of course, remember that an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin is also being issued by the International Criminal Court. And that's escalated the war as well. So if Vladimir Putin steps into a country, a member ICC country, he could be arrested. And yet the United States is not an ICC member, nor is Russia. But it certainly complicates things, makes things a little more interesting, doesn't it? So Vladimir Putin wanted for war crimes, and now Lindsey Graham, he could be arrested if he ever decides to go to Russia or an allied country aligned with Russia, I guess. I don't know. Would China arrest Lindsey Graham and turn him over to Russia? I doubt it. So it doesn't carry as much weight as an ICC arrest warrant does. But I'll tell you this, it doesn't sound like either side is ready for peace. And that is very disturbing. Here's the video. I'll run it for you so you can make your own assessment. And again, be forewarned that this may well have been edited, but keep in mind, it's not the Russians who edited this. It's the Ukrainians. So if it was edited, it was the Ukrainians who edited it and then released it. And the Ukrainians are supposed to be on our side. We're supposed to be on their side. I'm on the side of peace. I think this war never had to happen. Let's take a look. You can decide for yourself if it's edited and give it whatever weight you want.
Free or die. Free or die. Now you are free. Yes. And we will be. And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent. Thank you so much. Now it's free or die. Free or die. Now you are free. Yes. And we will be. And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent. Thank you so much. Now it's
So, as someone who's spent a lot of years editing audio and video, it was definitely edited. Nevertheless, both statements, even standing alone, I don't think it changes the context much, does it? Interpret it as you will. I give you the raw information right there. That's as much as we have. So you can make your own assessment. I'm just bringing you the information. That's what we do around here. I don't know sometimes what the truth is, but we're determined to try to get you closer to it.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
All right, I'm back. So what else do I have? I'm not sure. We have so much crazy stuff going on out there in the world today. Yeah, still the polls not closed. I don't think out in Alberta quite yet. So that's still going on. Coming up on 8 p.m. That's really about the size of the news today. I have another thing that I was going to run the other night and I didn't get to it, but okay, I'm going to run this because I can and because everybody's still on about the Bud Light thing. So here's Dylan Mulvaney for you.
And so I recently told my parents that I may be a little bit romantically interested in women. And that was a big shock for them, considering the past 10 years of coming out as gay, then queer, then non-binary, then trans. And I think it was just a bit of a shock. So I tell my dad and he goes, well, I would love to see you get a woman pregnant. And I said, oh, no. She would be getting me. So I recently.
And this, just after I said we're trying to get you closer to the truth. Let's try it again.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay. So, oh my goodness. Go to the phones. I'll risk it. I will. I don't know what we're going to get tonight. I know it's going to be entertaining, though. Okay, I'm setting them up. Let's run this, and I'll be right back. Get ready to call in.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay. Let's see if we've got any callers up. Here we go. Our first caller of the night is Pam. Hello. How are you tonight?
Oh, wow. That's a first, being a first caller. I'm happy.
Me too. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm feeling better today. I'm on the mend.
Well, Oh, well, yeah, because I looked for your show on yesterday and the day before, and I couldn't find it. So I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, I was pretty sick there for a couple of days. So I just couldn't sit in this chair for this long and get it. It was just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Sorry about that. But I'm back.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you're back.
Yes.
Yeah, I just, I listened to Biden's full speech this morning, and I'm sitting there going, God, what a rousing speech to rouse the troops. It makes everybody want to go join the armed forces, It was all he does is talk about his son, one of them. Why doesn't he talk about the other who was in the armed forces and got kicked out for being a drug addict?
Oh my goodness. Yes, exactly. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's not even funny.
I guess he likes his kids being in the armed forces because they can go up and travel around the world and open up foreign bank accounts for him.
I guess somebody's got to do it for him.
Yeah.
He's got to have somebody take care of all that cash.
Oh, yeah. And that's for that woman speaking today with being under investigation with CSIS. That I'm going to be interested in that because I had a friend in CSIS and I actually got interviewed to help get her in because we were all in the military at the time. And I just want to know how they do that because I remember when COVID first broke out, before Canada had any cases or the US, I remember seeing on the news very briefly that there was a military, I think he was a major, and he was speaking before the House, and he was speaking about the games. They had these athlete games where Canadians and American forces went over, I guess it was just around the time of the Olympics or just pre to that, or Commonwealth Games, and they were over in China. And he was speaking about this, and he thought a bioweapon was coming in, and you never heard anything more about it, but you can still get it on CBC News. Like I pulled up the clip a few times, have to do it again, but so I would be interested to know why CSIS is taking so long to investigate things.
I don't know that they are. Is there an indication that CSIS is not investigating? Because
I think that there are
they're calling for an inquiry, but that doesn't mean CSIS is not investigating. It just means that if there's no inquiry, we may never find out what CSIS might have to share with the public.
Yeah, I think there should have been inquiries a long time ago myself, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. I agree. I think that the more the public knows, the better myself. I don't like secrets, especially when it comes to government. I'm not sure that any secrets are good when it comes to government. I think that, I guess maybe some military things you can't share because of foreign governments possibly, attacking you. But, the other thing about all of this is I don't know how anybody is surprised. Let me just be clear. Every single country around the world probably engages in some sort of espionage and some sort of interference in other countries, whether it's just intelligence gathering or outright interference, trying to manipulate or influence even elections. And if not elections, destabilize governments in order to replace regimes or sitting government. It's going on all the time.
Yeah.
And don't think for 1 minute that the Canadian and US governments aren't engaging in that activity. We do all the time, have for as long as I've ever been alive, and it continues today. So don't be surprised when other governments are over here doing it to us.
Yeah, my grandfather was a spy. for the British in the Second World War. Yeah, he was a sniper and he was a spy.
Yeah.
And when I went to get his records, of course, everything was all redacted. But we kind of knew my mom just used to say he was in intelligence. Well, that was at the time, it was MI5 or MI6, and he was attached to them. So, I'm well aware of that. But speaking of not telling military secrets, well, why is it now on Rumble I found this thing, and it's marked secret. It looks like it's written by an old typewriter, and it's titled "Forest Fires as a Military Weapon," and it's dated Final Report 1970, and it goes into the whole when they were in. It was the U.S. put out by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I understand what it is, and that's really a plan that can be executed in various countries. So if you're in the middle of a battle, you could use a forest fire to as a weapon against an adversary. Like, they could use forest fires in Ukraine right now. What I don't really like, though, Pam, is people using that information to fuel conspiracies here and things that have not been shown to be true, and or at least not supported at all. And even though we're seeing tonight in Nova Scotia that they know that the majority of these fires were caused by people, they're not using the word arson necessarily. Sometimes it's arson, sometimes it's careless campfires. It's a variety of different reasons why these fires are started. And I kind of want to leave it right there because I don't want to throw fuel on the fire of BS that I've been trying to stamp out here on this channel for a few weeks now, because some people have been intentionally fanning those flames simply to get people upset. And I'm not going to sit here and engage tonight in theories that are only going to get people angry, worried, scared, and maybe, evoke other negative emotions in people.
Well, my question is, if it's secret, how did it ever get out on the internet?
Because it's not secret.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it talks about aerial spraying and conditioning the area 4 to 6 months before you do the burn, and it was originally designed for the Viet Cong, and then they mentioned
that's right. That's exactly that's right, because these plans were designed for things like the Vietnam War, where they could not see the enemy. So that's why they developed Agent Orange, because it was a more efficient way to just strip the area of foliage, and so that they could then reveal where the enemy was, so they wouldn't have any place to hide. So they would just spray Agent Orange, all the vegetation would die right away, and then they could just fly over with helicopters and kill everybody, instead of having to prep the area and then burn it all and then come back. No, it was a different way of doing it, and it was faster than fire.
But we had Canadians die. Like, I was in the Medic Corps when that happened, and we had Canadians that died back in Eastern Canada, Nova Scotia, around that area, because they had tested it in crop fields.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. That's the truth. That actually happened. You can look it up.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Agent Orange was an absolute disaster, an environmental disaster. It was a disaster for human beings, because a lot of people got very sick from it, as we know. And I don't think that anybody was ever, honestly, some compensation, but how do you compensate people adequately for something like that? The whole thing all the way down the line is just a horror story. And that's just all there is to the Agent Orange disaster. And anyway, in any case, Pam, thank you so much. I appreciate the call. And
You're welcome.
And we're going to move on to Sandy, who is calling in tonight.
Okay, say hi to Fred for me.
Okay, thanks, Pam. See ya.
Bye.
Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
I am okay, Sandy. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. I hope you're feeling better.
I am much better today. Thank you.
You know what I think it is?
What's that?
I think it's the fires going on.
What is what's what?
Like the fires going on in Alberta. I came home yesterday
Yeah.
and I do a lot of walking. I came home and I was so sick.
Uh-huh.
And I recuperated and it felt like I was on fire.
It felt like you were on fire?
It felt like I was on fire. Everything that I came in from, it felt like I was like 100 degrees above.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I didn't get sick because of the fires. That's not what it was.
Well,
in my case.
I haven't been feeling well lately, and I think it's just climate change, it's weather. You know, like last May of last year, it was freezing here.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's almost like 30 degrees here.
Yeah.
So I'm learning. So I'm going to change the subject. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you were talking about Agent Orange.
Yes.
You have spoken about that a couple of times on your show.
If you say so. I don't recall speaking about it before, but it's entirely possible.
Yeah, and you were talking about it with Pam today, too. And you know what? I was born in 1966. I was born in the middle of the Vietnam War, which I never saw. And the funny thing is that people born in the 60s, late 70s, early 60s, mid 60s were born with a birth defect.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
What I mean by birth defect is with either some form of disability. I do have a disability. And I want to talk about it. I can walk, I function, I'm functioning very normally. I function very well. I was born with an extra toe and 2 extra fingers in 1966.
Okay.
No lie. When I was born, my mother told me when I grew up that I had to have a biopsy and they had to remove the extra fingers and the extra toe.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother said to me, "You are gifted."
Okay.
And I don't want to drama this. I don't want to get too much involved in this. My father knew, my mother knew, my family knew about it. And it took me a lot of years to figure it out, what it was that was wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with me. And what I found out about me, I'm glad I know about it. And it brings you to a level of knowledge, education, intelligence, everything. I did a test recently. I did an educational test. I won't tell you the test. I aced it.
Okay.
I aced it and it came out 100% when I did the test. I couldn't believe it, and I didn't even use the manual.
Well, that's excellent.
Can you believe that?
Sure. I believe that.
So I think there are children out there that are highly intelligent more than we are.
No doubt.
I think there are children out there that probably know more than we know.
Sure.
And
Every generation
I love
gets a little bit
children.
smarter.
Every
Theoretically.
generation, theoretically, educationally, whether they're educating at home, in school, private school, no matter where they're going to school, they are going to ace it. And they're going to come out even better. And you know why? Because all this pandemic bullshit, and it's not even fucking Friday yet, and I'm going to say it, sorry, I said the F word, they're going to fucking come out even bigger. I don't have children. I was never married. I never had children, but my family have children, and they're coming out and they're fucking acing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of them.
Okay.
And they're going to go further. And this LGBTQ garbage bullshit, I am sick of it. I'm against it. It's not it's not a part of my religion. I am so against it with this medical bullshit going on. And you are right. You are absolutely right. And I'm with you. I'm against it.
What am I right about? What did I say that you agree with?
Well, because you talk about it. You bring it out. You're bringing it out in the open. You're bringing it out in the media. You're letting people know what's going on. And when I see these fucking idiots putting their children on drugs and all this garbage that's going on, I am so fucking against it. Because it's going to fuck them up in later on in life. And you had a guest on here the other night, and I don't even know his name, but I was watching him. It gave me the creep.
Mm-hmm.
This gay shit, I'm fucking against it. I don't want any part of it. And when you do put it on, I delete your show.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry, but I have to delete your show because I am sick of hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking up the world.
Okay, well, we're tolerant of a wide range of views here on the program.
You know what?
So
When
that
I
people
go
can
to my
discuss
family
issues,
and we
yeah.
have discussions,
Mhm.
when I go to my family house, when I go to my family's house and we have discussions, I don't bring that shit up.
Yeah,
I don't bring it up.
sure.
I don't bring it up because they don't want to fucking hear it. And I'm so appalled by it. It disgusts me because it's in my community too.
Yeah, well, you know.
And I live in a small community and I'm from Toronto, so I can't even imagine.
Okay. Well, listen, Sandy, you've got a lot of FUs there, so save them up for Friday and call back. And make sure you call back on Friday, okay?
I'm going to top Leo. I'm going to top Leo next Friday.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate your call.
Thank you, hon. Take
Take
care.
care. See ya.
Bye.
Okay. Here's the man. Here's Dragon.
Hey, what's up, Maverick? How are you tonight?
I am
Good
fine.
to see you in top shape, my friend.
Yeah, getting there.
And yeah, that's cool. Yeah, have you heard or see that you're on the top one of the top list of the WHO disinformation? Wow, you made it.
Yeah, that's what
How do you feel?
I was told today. Well, it's an honor to be included on such a distinguished list. There's some big names on there. Let me see if I can pull that up for folks. Do you want to explain to the people what this is that you're talking about?
Yeah, actually, it's the new Article 18 that the WHO is putting up. so they can fight the disinformation on next pandemics and the one that we have right now. And actually, they have put on a list of medias and news that outlet actually that for them use disinformation. So we have you, Maverick. We have Viva Frey. You got also Redacted and the Morris. Chris Martinson from Prosperity Peak and other. So you got many names from all sorts of outlet, and they are all on that list.
Yes, that's true.
It's fun. I mean,
we'll see how fun
we're
it is.
getting somewhere.
We'll see how fun it is that when they come for me.
Well,
yeah, I'm on
do
the
you
list
know
here.
what
Let me
I
show
think
folks.
about that, though? I mean, I kind of see a reminiscence of the World War II agenda against journalism, and even while it was in Cold War, also we had a lot of journalists that has been persecuted and targeted by the government. So the way I see it, it's probably the same thing, actually.
So this is a World
It's
Health
just a way to
Organization list,
discredit.
and here's a portion of the list. I'm actually on this list twice, just to let
Yep.
everybody know. I'm listed on it, not just once but twice. I don't know if anybody else has that honor, but I'm on it twice, and I'm right under Matt Taibbi. I'm right between
Redacted
Matt
actually
Taibbi
has
and Max
twice.
Blumenthal.
Redacted, you can see it twice.
Are they okay?
Once in Redacted, Morris. I don't remember his first name. Chris Morris, I think. And the on his first name also with the Redacted at the end. Same as you.
Yeah, well, there I am, number 356, and I can't remember where else I'm listed, but I'm listed twice. I know that.
Somewhere around the 600, because there's like 634 name, if I do remember correctly.
Yeah. And look at these other names like Mark Dice, Mark Levin, Mark Stein. These are all just in the M's. These are big names. MCSC
Dark Horse podcast.
Megan Kelly.
Dark Horse podcast too.
What was that one?
Dark Horse podcast.
Oh, okay.
Weinstein family. Kim Iverson also.
Kim Iverson, yeah. So, we're having a little bit of impact out there, folks.
We are worldwide, baby.
Yes, we are. We're official now. If you had any doubt before, I guess I'm doing a great job, because the other night somebody from, of course, the other side called in and they hate me too. You're doing a job as a journalist when you have people on all political sides angry with you.
Oh, by the way, nice handle of that Glenn guy Friday night. You did handle the guy pretty well.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that on Wednesday, we were supposed to have anyway, a journalist on to discuss this very subject.
Really?
Yes. He's been writing about this topic, and he'll be on Wednesday evening. So we'll have
Let
him
me
on.
guess. First name James.
Yes.
I'm good. Well, I'm gonna be here and tuning in for sure. I want to see that.
Yeah, we're gonna have him on the show, and it's James Roguski, and he's been kind of spreading the word about all this. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even know that I'm on the list. It's because of his work that someone drew this to my attention earlier today. And now here you are talking about it again. I wasn't going to.
Well, I'm not taking all the merits.
Yeah.
I'm not taking all the merits because actually, your good friend and Mud Amnesty actually is the one that brought that to my attention.
Ah, yes.
And when I looked at it deeply, this is where I saw that list and said, "Hey, you know what? We got some friends that we need to tell."
That's right. Yeah. It was Amnesty who sent me the link to this whole thing today. And I wasn't going to talk about it tonight. I was going to hold back, but this is a good way to sort of promo the show for Wednesday, when James will join us on the program to explain further what this is all about and what the ramifications might be for journalism worldwide in our pursuit of truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this means, really.
Yeah, I think that's, well, I think what this means is that they want to control what we're going to say now and then. So,
and but I mean, they're making, this is basically a hit list. So what are they going to do to us? They're going to have us all taken off the internet. They're going to fine us. They're going to lock us up. They're going to put us against a wall and shoot us all. What are they planning to do? I have no idea. But who?
Oh, me neither.
You know who else made lists? The wingnuts in the McCarthy era. You know, this is McCarthyism.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're going to put you on a list, you know. Authoritarian governments make up lists of journalists like this. This is dangerous stuff.
So basically, this is a way to say that the government is persecuting those people that will speak our truth.
Yeah.
So, wow.
And
Clever.
In my view, a lot of the names on this list are very credible journalists, and a lot of hardcore, heavy-hitting conservatives like Mark Levin, Mark Stein.
Yeah.
You know, these are
well,
big
to
names.
name two personal fave, Redacted and Kim Iverson are pretty vocal, and they don't hold back their word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They say basically what they think the way they think, and screw that if you don't like it. I'm gonna say it the way I think.
Yeah.
And that's the way they do. And I mean, look, this is working. You know, they are basically on the hit list too. And like you said, I mean, the why you are there and all those 600 people are on that list, it's because you guys doing a fine fucking job.
Well,
you're doing a perfect job, and this is how it is.
Thank you. I appreciate the.
They are scared of you.
You know.
So that's pretty much my rant today.
Well, thanks for showing people. I don't like to make the show about me. So that's why I wasn't going to talk about it tonight. But there is the larger issue, and it certainly needs attention. People need to be concerned about this stuff. Well, this is an assault on free speech. This is an assault on real journalism. This is an assault on democracy, because one of the cornerstones of any democracy is a free media.
Yep. This is the cornerstone, and not only the cornerstone, but I think the pillar of all democracy and free speech.
Yeah. And who made them the arbiter of truth? The World Health Organization. Who made them? Who put them in charge of anything even going on in this damn country? Or any country for that matter. Our governments bend over and take it from them. Well, I think it's probably high time that stops. But a lot of power.
The way I see it,
and I'm just a little guy, man.
Oh, they are, but this is the way I see it. our government is bought off by those people.
Well, here I sit,
the big money,
little old me, right? And they're afraid of me.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid of what we're doing here. Shows how effective we are. It shows how powerful even an individual can be. It shows the power of the media. It really does. And it shows why what we are doing here is so important.
Yep. This is the lifetime opportunity to show the world that the truth will always prevail.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dragon, for bringing it up. I truly appreciate the confidence that you have, and I appreciate you drawing attention to this serious issue, and we'll explore it more Wednesday with James.
Well, it's my pleasure, my friend.
All right.
Well, thanks for the platform and the free speech that I can produce on your show. It's always a pleasure to be there.
It's my privilege. Thank you, sir. We'll do it again very soon.
Have a good one.
You betcha. Take care. Okay, folks, and you can support this show at freedomreporters.com. You can make a donation there. That takes you to the PayPal page where you can donate, or you can also donate through maverickdonations.com, which is the Give, Send, Go account that we have set up. You can also donate in the Rumble, on the Rumble channel through the chat section using Rumble Rants. We've been demonetized on YouTube, of course, which is whatever. Not likely to get that back, but again, this is a viewer-supported channel, so if you're inclined, you can support us that way, or again at freedomreporters.com. Please consider subscribing, like, share. If you do subscribe on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell. And if you haven't subscribed over on Rumble yet, please consider doing that as well. That would really help the channel a lot, because Rumble is kind of where it's at. That's where the future is, I think. That is more of a free speech platform. And given what you just saw, as we are no doubt going to find ourselves under some sort of attack from even the World Health Organization directly right here on the Maverick News channel, the Rumble channel may provide a safe haven, a safe port in an information warfare storm heading into the future. And with that being said, I am going to wrap it up just a little bit earlier than normal this evening. I do appreciate everyone joining us here on the show. It's always a privilege. You could be anyplace else, but here you are sharing your evening with me and the Maverick family. And that's pretty cool. I will be back tomorrow night, same time, same channel, 6 p.m. Eastern time, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.